and the Ipo family, as we call them, indigenous people of Biafra. In your Nigeria today, after you are denied access to Nnamdi Kanu, you can call him your prime.
Yes, correct.
By the department known as the State Security Services in Nigeria, but they self-style themselves as the Department of State Services. So we call them DSS as a result. But their real name is DSS. I think when they discovered that they started acting like the Hitlerites in Germany, the SSS of that era, yes. They tried to change, but they haven't characteristically changed. So what happened yesterday? Just tell people what was your encounter like for the first time on Nigerian soil with this major security behemoth known as the SSS.
I'd like to begin by underscoring that we did everything according to the judge's order, which permits Nnamdi's lawyers to visit on Mondays and Thursdays. The order is categorical. It doesn't say we need to be escorted or, it's dependent upon any particular presence of the DSS at the facility. And adequate notice was given by Ejiofor that I would be one of the two lawyers to visit Nnamdi on Thursday to discuss his legal case, which has enormous ramifications, not only for Biafra and Nigeria itself, but internationally, since it involves, among other things, the kidnapping and torture of someone who's then later detained. So we drove to the facility, I did with Ejiofor. It's not all that, what I would call user-friendly. You see people carrying very, very advanced weapons on your way into the facility. But they didn't disturb us. We went and we checked in, as was proper. Didn't make any noise or commotion. We went and sat in a waiting room. Ordinarily, it's about 5 minutes before you're permitted to see the individual you're authorized to consult. And after about 15 or 20 minutes, the gentleman entered and announced, not very convincingly, that the person who was supposed to escort us down the hallway was on a special assignment, and therefore we couldn't visit with Nnamdi. Now, he didn't say that with much conviction, and moreover, the plausibility of that being true is highly remote. There was advance notice, days advance notice given of my presence with Ejiofor to speak to Nnamdi about his legal case. This is not something that happened at the 11th hour. And so you have to ask, why did he just make up, which is clearly a falsity, to justify denying access to Nnamdi Kanu? We're not talking about doing anything in violation of law. It's trying to vindicate the rule of law, human rights law, and his rights as an individual, and also the rights of all Nigerians in living in a state where the rule of law prevails. It's not just arbitrary tyranny. So this was a very, very important meeting to have. It wasn't to undermine any system of law whatsoever. And so we were escorted out of the building and returned quite dumbfounded that there would be such a brazen lie told. Because it's fanciful to say you have somebody on special assignment. There are literally hundreds of other persons there that could escort us to the detention facility. Yeah. It's not like you need high-energy physics training to walk down a hallway, open a door. That's pretty simple, even for elementary school children. So I think that I have deduced, and I think Ejiofor would as well, that the Nigerians are frightened of the United States and me in particular. I've done nothing other than just argue law in cases. Indeed, you would think that the Nigerians now and the government struggling with restructuring, trying to evoke confidence that you can trust their pledges, whatever they are, in trying to revamp this dispensation, would be going out of their way to give confidence that they'll comply with court orders. This undermines any public confidence, Biafrans, Yoruba, anyone. Well, if they can just flout the law so blatantly, and without even embarrassment. Number one, the court order said nothing about being escorted. We were there, according to the court order. And two, it wasn't even a good falsehood, because it was so blatantly contrived at the 11th hour. But that doesn't mean we're going to be any less assertive in demanding the rights that Nnamdi Kanu is entitled to. In fact, all Nigerians are entitled to. We expect to return on Monday, consistent with the court order, and also suggesting to the court that the Nigerian government is in contempt. The order had nothing to do with people being on special assignment or not. We showed up. We didn't have any arms. There was nothing that we were doing that was disruptive or threatening, and they said no. So we're very disappointed that this looks another step backwards, away from the rule of law, and further earmark of the kind of tyranny that Nnamdi Kanu and Biafrans are revolting against today. And I say revolting, not in the sense necessarily of doing anything more than self-defense, but saying we can't live under this situation. And an American whose own Declaration of Independence identifies grievances we had against King George III. You know, the grievances, if you look at no taxation without representation, those pale in comparison to the grievances of being slaughtered. You know, did people get designated as terrorist organizations? There's no hearing, there's no law, there's nothing. And all the occupations of any power in the government are all filled by Fulani. It's obviously that there's ethnic, religious discrimination ongoing. It's far more acute than anything that provoked our American Revolution. And so we have a natural sympathy for the ambitions and quests. It's not because we have any anger or necessarily hostility towards the Fulani. They're human beings like others. But if you can't mix together in any way that respects equal rights, then you got to build fences. We once had a very famous poet named Robert Frost, and he said,